Hey guys, imagine this. You're not in your bed anymore. You're in a hangar, 3 stories high and colder than it has any right to be at 3 a.m. It's silent, except for the slow, pulsing hum of a jet engine waking up like a sleeping giant. You're wearing a flight suit that smells like insulation and sweat and pressure. You haven't spoken above a whisper in hours. You haven't slept in longer. There's a helmet in your hands and you can't stop looking at it. Because once that thing's on your head, you stop being a person. You become a system, a node in a network, a ghost in the sky. You're about to climb into 172 feet of carbon black nightmare. A $2 billion triangle that's designed to do one thing: disappear. You're not a fighter pilot, there's no dogfight coming. You won't even see the enemy. They won't see you either. Because that's the point. This isn't Top Gun, this isn't glamour. This is stealth. This is pressure. This is the calm before a mission that doesn't officially exist. And in a few minutes, you'll be sealed inside a cockpit smaller than your kitchen table, sitting beside a weapons officer who hasn't smiled in 3 days. Your call sign isn't cool, it's classified. Your flight plan doesn't show up on radar. And your payload, it's the kind of thing that ends wars, or starts them. If you'd like to hear more stories like this, give it a like and subscribe, it helps us keep making them. Now close your eyes. You're not in your room anymore. You're strapped in, and your jet is rolling silently toward a runway that barely exists on paper. The night is cold. The air is still. The mission clock just started ticking, and you're about to vanish. You don't remember the first time you said you wanted to fly. Maybe it was the sound. The distant rumble of a jet engine cutting through a clear blue sky like a god with somewhere to be. Or maybe it was the silence that came after the part where the plane was gone, but your pulse wasn't. You were 6, or 8, or 15. You built paper airplanes. You drew cockpit panels in the margins of your notebooks. You watched grainy documentaries about Cold War spy planes while your friends played football. You weren't interested in touchdowns. You were interested in altitude. But there's a difference between wanting to fly and training to disappear. That part didn't come until later. It started with tests. Not the kind you can cram for the kind that measure your bones, your nerves, your tolerance for being dropped, spun, isolated. They strapped you into a chair that spun so fast your stomach tried to leave through your ears. They shoved you into a dark room for 12 hours and asked if you still felt human. They watched your heartbeat while you solved math under stress. They whispered things in your earpiece and asked if you believed them. Eventually you passed. Not because you were the best pilot, because you were the quietest one who didn't break. And that's what the B-2 demands. Quiet, precision, and the ability to vanish completely without asking why. You spent years learning systems you couldn't talk about, weapons you couldn't name, airframes you weren't supposed to acknowledge even existed. You memorized acronyms that sounded like riddles: EO, IR, JDAM, RCS. You learned that a B-2 isn't really a plane. It's a question, asked from 50,000 feet, answered in silence. They taught you how to fly without being seen, how to level out so precisely at cruising altitude that even a ripple of turbulence could make the wrong radar ping. You practiced touch and goes in the dead of night, learned how to breathe in a mask that made your voice sound like a ghost, got comfortable with being uncomfortable. Your bunk at Whiteman AFB had no windows. You didn't need windows. You weren't going to be seeing the world. You were going to be above it, always watching, never waving. You sat through briefings where you weren't allowed to take notes. You rehearsed protocols where one wrong digit could trigger a global incident. You trained until your nerves stopped twitching when someone said, "nuclear capable." until the idea of carrying something that could level a city became just another box on the checklist. Then, one night they called you in. Didn't say why. Didn't need to. You showed up, flight suit on, boots laced, helmet in hand, eyes forward, and that's when you saw it. Your aircraft, the B-2 Spirit, jet black. All curved, no cockpit windows from the outside, just angles and threat and silence. It didn't sit on the tarmac. It lurked. It was 172 feet of wingspan that whispered, "Go ahead, find me." A delta-wing demon born in classified files and tested under starlight. You stood there, feeling the weight of it. Not the weight in pounds, the weight in consequences. Because once you climbed inside, you didn't just carry bombs. You carried policy. You carried strategy. You carried the idea that sometimes the most terrifying weapon is the one no one can see. The pre-flight checklist was longer than most novels. You went through it line by line. Hydraulics checked. Avionics checked. Secure comms checked. Nose gear, rudder actuator, fuel vent, wing fold interlock checked, checked, checked. All while the night around you stayed impossibly still. The wind didn't blow. The stars didn't move. And your co-pilot, Captain Reeves, didn't speak. He didn't need to. You both knew what came next. Not a flight. Not a mission. A statement. One that would travel 6,000 miles unseen. Drop a payload the world wouldn't officially acknowledge, and then vanish again. Your instructor used to say the B-2 is a ghost. It doesn't land, it reappears. It doesn't attack, it deletes. So you stepped up the ladder, slid into the left seat, pulled the canopy shut with a sound that felt like a verdict. Now it was just you, Reeves, and the instruments. 2 pilots, a few $1 billion of aircraft, and the knowledge that if you screwed this up, the news would never say your name. Because your name doesn't exist on this flight plan. This plane doesn't have a call sign. This runway doesn't have lights. And your target? Well, we'll get there. But first, strap in. Run the systems check. Take a breath you won't get to exhale for 22 hours. The B-2 doesn't wait. It slides forward with a whisper. And just like that, you're airborne. And the world below stops seeing you. You never really feel the takeoff. Not the way you're used to. In other jets, there's a roar, a lurch, a sense of being shoved by a god-sized hand. Not in the B-2. In the B-2, there's just absence. No afterburner flame, no nose lift. Just momentum smoothed into silence. Like you're being gently erased from the runway. You check the gauges out of habit, not because you doubt. Because this jet doesn't scream when it flies. It murmurs. It doesn't ask for attention. It denies the very idea of it. At 300 feet, the lights below vanish in the mist. By 2,000, the base disappears. By 10,000, the rest of the world follows. You're not flying a plane. You're inside a cathedral made of titanium and intention. The cockpit is dark on purpose. No dome lights, just red backlit panels and the glow of your MFDs. The air smells like carbon fibre and electronics. You can hear the air system hiss every few seconds, the jet exhaling like it's bored. Captain Reeves doesn't speak. He doesn't need to. You've flown together long enough that words are just clutter. You adjust the trim, set climb rate, reconfirm transponder is dark. That's the paradox of the B-2. You're invisible, but you have to act like you're not, just in case someone's watching with gear they're not supposed to have. Just in case some radar tech with insomnia and clearance he shouldn't have decided to go hunting for ghosts. Everything you do is quiet. subtle throttle nudges, soft control stick corrections. Your hands move like you're disarming a bomb in a church, because in a way you are. The cabin's pressurised, of course, climate-controlled, comfortable. But the quiet, that's not for comfort. That's so you can feel the pressure when it breaks. At 38,000 feet, turbulence stops. The stars come back. And now you're in it. The zone. No cities, no traffic. Just black on black. Sky over sky. The Earth is down there somewhere. But it's not part of your life anymore. You're flying over the void. And the void flies back. You glance left, nothing. You glance right, more nothing. The B-2 has no vertical tail, no flashy decals. It's just wing. A black, silent arrowhead that ignores physics by sheer force of budget and design. You're inside a weapon that doesn't look like it should fly. But it does. Perfectly. Reeves breaks the silence. ETA to refuel point. You glance at the mission timer. 3 hours, maybe less. He nods, goes back to his systems. The first phase of the flight is cruise mode. Monitored autopilot. Constant checks. Watch systems, wait. Which sounds easy, until it's not. Because the thing nobody tells you about flying a B-2 isn't the altitude or the secrecy or the stakes. It's the boredom. And how it fights your discipline. Every 5 minutes your brain whispers, nothing's happening. You're fine. Why not relax? But you don't relax. Because relaxing is how systems slip. And when systems slip in a stealth bomber 40,000 feet over international airspace with a payload that could end history, you don't get a second chance. You open the mission packet again. Code words, strike routes, alternate coordinates. You check them again. Not because they've changed, because if they have, you want to be the one who noticed. The jet holds steady. A miracle of flight surfaces and software working in harmony, all wrapped in radar-absorbing skin thinner than a fingernail. You remember the phrase from training, the B-2 isn't invisible, it's just not worth looking at. That's the goal. Be smaller than background noise. Be less interesting than the clutter. You reach for your water tube. Sip. No taste, just hydration. You don't want to eat, not yet. The food's there, sealed packs, dense bars. But you're still in the mindset that eating means you're staying. And this plane, it never stays. Your bladder starts whispering at you another clock you've got to manage. Because the mission's long. 22 hours minimum. 25 more likely. And that's if everything goes right. If it doesn't, well, you try not to think about what ditching looks like at Mach 0.9 while 50,000 feet above Siberia. Reeves shifts in his seat. You glance at him. He's rubbing his eyes. Another subtle check. Not for fatigue, for alertness. The Air Force trusts machines. But it only deploys missions like this with 2 people. Not because it needs 2 to fly, but because one brain might start asking questions after hour 12. And questions lead to mistakes. So you have each other, to keep things sharp, to stay ahead of the sleep, to speak when silence becomes a threat. Outside, the sky is blacker than black. Inside, your breath fogs slightly on the mask's edge. You blink and check pressure. O2 flow, green. Cabin temp, stable. Everything's fine, and yet everything's not. Because you can feel it building. The moment. The mission. The thing no one will talk about afterward. Not in briefings. Not at reunions. Not even in the part of your brain that logs memories. Because what you're doing isn't about story. It's about erasure. You don't drop bombs. You delete coordinates. You don't fire a shot. You remove a potential future, and no one will ever say thank you, because no one will ever know. Not really. You glance at the chrono again. 2 hours until refuel. 2 hours until you meet another ghost in the sky. A flying gas station that exists just long enough to keep you airborne and then disappears. You settle into your seat. Flex your fingers. Close your eyes for a moment. Just a moment. The cold steel cathedral hums around you. Silent. Sacred. Unforgiving. You're not in the sky. You're somewhere above it. And the world below still doesn't know you're here. They don't call it a mission. They call it an option. As if you're choosing between scrambled eggs or toast. As if what you're about to do isn't written in ink so black it erases the lines around it. It starts in a windowless room deep inside Whiteman AFB. Not labelled, not on the base map. The kind of room you enter without knocking and leave without speaking. Fluorescent lights buzz above a single long table. No posters, no flags, just concrete, a projector, and 2 men in uniforms too crisp to trust. You don't sit until they tell you to. Captain Reeves is already there, arms crossed, eyes sharp, not angry, just alert. His quiet is louder than most people's panic. Across the table is a colonel you've never met before, and a civilian with a tablet who doesn't introduce himself. You don't ask his name. You already know you won't be seeing him again. Sit down, the colonel says. So you do. Then the door closes. Soft. Final. The lights dim. The projector comes on. No preamble, no welcome. Just satellite images, coordinates, topography. Then, black and white thermal footage of a compound in the desert. Vehicles. Movement. Heat signatures. Target Bravo 7. That's all they call it. No flags. No context. No faces. Just shapes. You glance at Reeves, he doesn't blink. The colonel starts talking. Low, calm. Like a man reading a eulogy for a stranger. You nod at key words. Threat potential. Unauthorized development. Contingency option. They say it all like lawyers. Precise. Clinical. You don't hear kill. You hear neutralize. You don't hear bomb. You hear deliver ordnance. You don't hear people. You hear assets. That's how you know this is real. Because when something's real, they start stripping the words down. The civilian leans forward, taps the screen. An outline appears triangular, wide, unmistakable. Your bird, a B-2. It overlays the target grid like a shadow. You'll leave at 0300, refuel over the Arctic, penetrate airspace over the pole. You'll release payload at waypoint Echo, exit vector as low profile sweep through the Black Sea. You try not to blink too hard at that. That's a long route, a dangerous one. Opposition? Reeves asks. The colonel shrugs. Nothing that can see you, unless something's changed. You've learned that when they say, unless, they mean probably. Another tap on the tablet. Up comes your payload. 2 JDAMs. £2,000 each. GPS guided. Smart enough to steer themselves into a chimney. Dumb enough to keep quiet about it afterward. You nod. Not out of agreement, out of understanding. The colonel leans back in his chair, folds his hands. You're not to deviate, you're not to engage, you're not to improvise. This isn't Iraq in 03, this is strategic deterrence, gentlemen. You are a message, not a hammer. You swallow. It's the kind of line they say when they want you to feel better. It doesn't work. Because you know exactly what kind of message a 2000 pound guided bomb sends. And it's not, hello. They give you a black folder. Inside, call signs, comms windows, timing codes, digital encryption keys. Each one valid for exactly 24 hours. After that, they self-expire. You'll still be flying. but your map will be out of date. You're expected to land before that happens. Expected, but not guaranteed. They ask if you have questions. You don't. Not because you understand everything, but because you understand enough. Reeves stands. You follow. The colonel gives a sharp nod. The civilian says nothing. As you leave, the door clicks shut behind you with a sound like a file being deleted. You don't speak in the hallway. Not for security, for sanity. Because if you say it out loud, it becomes real. Instead, you head for the prep room. Flight suits, pressure gloves, helmet seals. Everything you've worn 100 times, but tonight it feels heavier. Not physically, existentially. Each strap you tighten feels like a contract. Each layer you add feels like you're sealing the version of yourself who used to have opinions about this. And now, you're a weapon with a conscience, flying into darkness with a payload that might never be mentioned again. You catch your reflection in the glass of the prep door, helmet in hand, eyes hollow. You almost don't recognise yourself. Because this isn't the you who wanted to fly. This is the version built to vanish. Reeves gives you a quiet nod. It's not encouragement. It's alignment. He doesn't say, let's do this. He says, let's disappear. And just like that, briefing's over. The decision wasn't yours. But the execution, that's all you. The walk from prep room to tarmac is only 40 metres. But it feels like a mile, or a lifetime. There's no music, no speeches, no text clapping your shoulder wishing you luck. There's just the rhythmic slap of your boots on concrete, and the sound of your breath behind the visor. Mechanical, too loud, too slow. You carry your helmet in both hands. Not because it's heavy, it's not. But because the moment you put it on, you become someone else. Something else. Captain Reeves walks a half step ahead, flight bag over one shoulder, eyes on the jet ahead of you like it might disappear if he blinks too long. It might. Because the B-2 doesn't wait. It rests. Like a panther on a leash you can't see. On the tarmac she looks even more surreal. All wing, no angles, no flash. Flat black and brooding. The ground crew doesn't salute. They barely acknowledge you. Not out of disrespect, out of protocol. Because this isn't a launch, it's a disappearance. They've already run diagnostics. Pre-checks are complete. She's ready. And now it's your turn to vanish with her. You climb the ladder without speaking. Boots creak on the metal rungs. The canopy's open like a yawning mouth. Inside, 2 seats, 100 switches, and the kind of silence that makes you forget the world is spinning. You lower yourself into the cockpit, slide into the left seat like you were born for it. Reeves takes the right. No chat, no banter. Just confirmation beeps and muscle memory. You start the pre-flight ritual. Hands dance across switches. Fuel, check. Hydraulics, green. Oxygen, flowing. ECM, armed and silent. The displays light up in sequence. Red, then amber, then green. Like stained glass for the war-bound. This is the cathedral. The sacred space where decisions echo louder than words. You reach for your helmet. Pause. Last breath of real air. Last second where you're just a man. Then helmet on. Click. Seal. Silence. Reeves looks over. Ready? You nod. It's not the kind of ready that means willing. It's the kind that means inevitable. He flips a switch. The canopy closes. Sound cuts out like someone unplugged the world. You're now inside the most expensive secret in aviation. The engine spool. You feel it more than hear it, a low vibration in your bones, like the heartbeat of something vast and ancient. Taxi clearance arrives through encrypted comms. You push the throttle forward. The B-2 begins to roll. No roar, no lurch, just motion. Smooth, heavy, absolute. The taxiway lights are dimmed. The tower lights are off. Even the runway is darker than usual, because this isn't a public affair. This is shadow work. You line up on the strip. Final checklist scrolls by. Payload secure. Autopilot synced. Target confirmed. Reeves gives the signal. You release the brakes. Thrust builds not fast but steady, like a bow being pulled back by something patient and fatal. You watch the airspeed rise. 80, 81. Rotation. The B-2 lifts without asking. No drama, no cheer. Just flight. And just like that, the ground lets go. You climb into darkness, into altitude, into anonymity. Below you, the base disappears. Above you, the sky is layered in stars you'll never have time to admire. You reach cruising altitude within minutes. Level off. Check instruments. Everything's green. Reeves clicks the comm. On profile. All systems nominal. You switch to secure internal channel. Not because anyone's listening, but because they might be. There's always someone listening. Now the world becomes small. Just you. The jet. The mission. The crew chief used to call this the walk of ghosts. Because once you're up here, you're not part of the world anymore. You're haunting it. No radar ping. No transponder beacon. No contrail. You're flying a shadow. A shadow with a payload heavier than truth. Reeves reaches for the mission packet. You both go over it again. Strike window 0426 Zulu. Release vector 221 magnetic. Target confirmation. Bravo 7, grid locked. You check the waypoints. Arctic refuel in 4 hours. Ingress over contested airspace in 8. You don't think about the payload yet. That's later. Right now your job is to disappear in plain sight, to become the silence between two alarms. You flex your hands, crack your knuckles, readjust your harness, and then you settle in. The B-2 is stable, quiet, humming like a secret. You glance at Reeves. He's watching the horizon, focused, calm. You wonder what he's thinking. Not about the mission, about the quiet. Because up here, above everything, it's not the noise that breaks you. It's the knowing that you are the sharp end of a question no one wants to ask. And the answer is somewhere in the bomb bay, waiting. You've levelled off. Cruising at 50,000 feet. Mach 0.95. 5 hours into the mission. No turning back. There's no sunrise up here. Just gradations of black. Blue if you squint, but mostly black. The cockpit glows red. That soft military red that doesn't blind your night vision. The only colour you've seen in hours. Everything is quiet. Too quiet. Not the peaceful kind. The kind that vibrates behind your ears like a warning you can't translate. Don't look down. Because down isn't there. You're above it all now. Above cities. Above weather. Above politics and names and consequence. Which is ironic. Because what you're carrying below your wings could start something no one's ready to finish. You lean back in your seat. As far as the harness will allow. Shift your shoulders. Your spine cracks a reminder you're still human. Reeves hasn't moved in 20 minutes. Eyes fixed on the instruments. One hand on the throttle, the other resting lightly on the console. Still, precise. Like a statue of a man who used to care. You blink. Check the mission clock. 5:13 into the sortie. You've got at least 15 more to go, maybe 18 depending on winds, maybe longer depending on refuel. You stretch your fingers, uncurl your toes inside your boots. Everything's numb but working. That's what counts. You recheck altitude, check O2 levels, check cabin pressure. Still green. Still floating through nothing. The flight plan rolls across your screen like a silent prayer. Grid lines, waypoints, strike corridor. And every dot on that line means something. Means hours. Means fuel. Means you're still on the razor's edge of perfect. Because that's the thing about this job, Tis. You're never flying the B-2. You're managing it. Like a brain surgeon balances the scalpel. Small movements, constant checks. Never react, anticipate. Your hands hover over the autopilot override. Not because anything's wrong, but because you might need to grab it in half a second. You might need to descend, bank, run. You hope not, because evasive manoeuvres in a flying wing at this altitude, that's not flying. That's praying with wings. The B-2 isn't built to fight. It's built to not be noticed. That's the only defence that matters. Not speed, not firepower. Silence. You glance at the threat matrix. Empty. For now. But the enemy doesn't always use radar. Sometimes they just watch. Which is why you're flying over the Arctic Circle. Because there's nothing up here to see you. Just ice, wind, a few satellites that are looking in the wrong direction. The jet shudders. Just once. A ripple of turbulence, high altitude kind. The kind that feels like a question. Reeves shifts. That one felt personal. You nod. Say nothing. The jet stabilizes. The quiet comes back. You check in with refuel control. Encrypted burst. Minimal words. Position confirmed. Rendezvous in 40 minutes. You've done mid-air refueling before, but never in this jet, and never at this altitude. Think about the KC-135 that'll be waiting a flying gas can, one mistake from being fire. They'll come in slow, nose tilted up like a dog sniffing the sky, and you'll slide beneath them perfectly aligned, like a handshake between ghosts. Reeves is already prepping, calibrating the boom window, running the checklist from memory. You drink a few ounces of water, enough to stay sharp, not enough to need the relief tube anytime soon, because up here, even peeing is a strategic decision. You glance at the weapons panel, still armed, still dormant, just steel and intention. People talk about carrying nukes like it's a weight, but it's not physical. It's not in your hands. It's behind your heartbeat. Because there's no almost in your mission. No warning shot. No first strike that's only for show. If you drop, you mean it. And the world will feel it. You blink again. Dry eyes. Cabin air does that. You could close them for a minute. But a minute up here is too long. You reach down, toggle the panel brightness lower. The light dims. The instruments still glow, like runes in an old myth. And just for a second you let yourself imagine what it would feel like. To pull the release. To feel the bay doors open. To feel the sudden change not in the aircraft, in you. Because once the bomb's gone, it's not coming back. And neither are you. Not the same version, because you don't drop bombs from this height and stay whole, even if no one ever sees your face, even if no one ever speaks your name, even if the footage is black and white and pixelated and filed under no comment. You'll know that part doesn't disappear. Only you do. You close your fist once, tight, steady hands, steady breath. Outside, the sky is starting to change. A hint of blue on the edge of black. Not dawn, not yet, but close. You tap the nav screen. 10 minutes to contact with the tanker. Time to descend. Time to tighten the dance. Because the next move, it's not about flying. It's about trust. 2 aircraft, 2 pilots, £200,000 of fuel, and one shared belief that neither of you will flinch. It's not the silence that gets you. It's the way it stays. You've been airborne for nearly 7 hours now, somewhere above the northern hemisphere. Somewhere between coordinates you're not allowed to write down. The refueling's done. Clean contact. No turbulence. No radio chatter beyond the bare minimum. Just 2 planes, nose to belly, transferring fuel in the dark like a secret handshake between old conspirators. The tanker peeled off minutes ago. Didn't say goodbye. You're alone now. Not figuratively, not emotionally, actually, literally, alone. 2 souls inside a flying shadow. No squadron. No escort, no call sign on anyone's radio. Just you, Reeves, and £40,000 of payload. You glance down at the earth. Not that you can see much. Cloud cover's thick tonight, like cotton soaked in ink. Somewhere beneath all that is land. Somewhere, a target. A grid square. A building with a name you're not allowed to say. You blink. Cabin lights are low. Oxygen hisses gently. Your gloves itch. Your joints are starting to ache in that low-grade, high-stress way. The kind of ache that isn't asking for rest, just recognition. Reeves is still silent. Focused. Reading a manual he already knows by heart. Flicking through pages like he's looking for the reason not to feel anything. You respect it. Because the longer you stay up here, the more your mind tries to wander, to fill in the blanks. You try not to let it. You try not to think about the target, or the building, or what might be inside. You're not supposed to know anyway. Needs to know, and you don't. That's part of the design. You're here to execute, not to ponder, not to doubt. You shift your legs, feet tingling. Your boots feel heavier than they should. You haven't stood in hours. Your body's beginning to forget what gravity feels like. You drink again. More water. Lukewarm, tasteless. You chew half a ration bar. Regret it immediately. Too dry. Too dense. Feels like eating a brick that hates you. You put the other half away. You won't want it later. You'll eat it anyway. You check the weapons panel. Again. Still green. Still ready. Still waiting. That's the thing about the B-2. It's always waiting. It was built for this. To loiter. To cruise. To haunt airspace with a payload that might never drop. But if it does, the mission is over in 5 seconds, and the consequences last decades. You check the time. 0432 Zulu. Still another 3 hours until your next turn. 5 until your final descent. You rub your neck. Tension setting in. Too many hours in the seat. You think about standing. Stretching. But your legs say no. Your spine says no. The jet says, stay seated, stay quiet, stay locked in. You comply. Outside it's clear again. Stars overhead. So many it almost feels fake. You try to remember the last time you looked at stars without a canopy between you and them. You can't. You remember training. Simulators. Hours inside grey boxes that buzzed and shook and made your brain forget what time was. This is like that. Except worse. Because it's real. And the stakes aren't theoretical. You glance at Reeves. He's looking at you. You nod. He nods. No words, just... Still good? Still good. You return to your panel. Double check the fuel readout. Trim tabs. Engine temps. Nominal. 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 The word starts to sound fake. You flip to the secure comms panel, one new message. One line of text. Proceed. No signature. No source. Just go. You show Reeves. He reads it. Doesn't react. Just closes his eyes. 1 second. 2. Opens them again. And now the air feels heavier, because now the flight isn't theoretical anymore. Now the target is real. Now the countdown has started. But it's not panic that hits you. It's focus. Everything sharpens. The edges of your screen. The curve of the HUD. The blinking green cursor on the map that is you. You are the moving piece now. The next vector. The threat wrapped in silence. You take a slow breath. Click the seatbelt a notch tighter. Pull your gloves on full. Hands still steady. You glance at the weapons display. The arming sequence is locked for now. That'll change at the final waypoint. But you already feel it, like weight in your chest. Potential energy. Pressure dressed in software. You're still an hour out, but your body already knows. Your thoughts begin to slow. One at a time. Target. Altitude. Timing. Escape route. The B-2 doesn't rush. It flows. And you? You're just along for the ride. A pilot. A passenger. A witness to something that may never be mentioned. You close your eyes, not to sleep, to shut out the stars. Because right now the sky is too beautiful, and what you're about to do doesn't deserve a beautiful sky. You stay like that, cruising, floating, disappearing in plain sight, a shape in the dark with no name, no face, no margin for error. And beneath you, thousands of feet below the world keep sleeping, unaware, unprepared, and very, very lucky. You thought war sounded like explosions, gunfire, engines, the crunch of boots and bone. But up here, at 50,000 feet over a continent that doesn't know you're coming, war doesn't sound like anything. Not yet. Just silence. Clean, total, intentional. And that's somehow worse. Because now you know the most dangerous sound in modern combat is none. You're 47 minutes from the release point, 37 from final confirmation, 2 hours from exfil, and right now everything's too calm. The B-2 hums like it's meditating, engines balanced, wings level, cabin pressure whispering against your helmet. No alarms, no blinking lights. Just the slow crawl of your digital flight path across a map that's been erased in every public file. You're crossing into denied airspace, a country that's officially not involved. That's the game. They pretend you're not here. You pretend they can't stop you. Everyone gets to save face. As long as you don't get caught. Your radar profile is razor thin. Just a ghost on the edge of a heartbeat. But stealth isn't invisibility. It's timing. It's angle. It's a calculated whisper. And you're starting to wonder if anyone's listening. Because it's too quiet. Not up here, down there. No surface-to-air pings. No defensive jamming. Not even a satellite handoff on the secure feed. Just nothing. Reeves notices it too. You don't need to speak. He shifts in his seat, frowning at the same systems you've already triple-checked. Still green, still locked, still running clean. That's the problem. When it's this clean, something's coming. You reach over, Tap the digital threat display. Clear. Still clear. Still too clear. You speak for the first time in almost an hour. Think they're blind or just polite? Reeves doesn't smile. Let's find out. You both go back to your instruments. The clock ticks down, each second loud in your head. You start your internal countdown, not the official one, your own. 35 minutes to target, 20 until arming command, 17 until commitment. Commitment. That's the word they use instead of point of no return. The point where the bomb bay opens, where you pass the last exit, where the only direction left is forward. You check the targeting packet again. It hasn't changed. A low-rise facility, one entrance, two structures. Thermal scans show minimal movement, which means either A, the target is soft, B, the data is stale, C, they knew you were coming and left something behind. The bomb bay stays sealed, for now. But you can feel it. That change in pressure, the way the jet starts to lean into the mission, like it wants this. You wonder what it would feel like to drop the bomb, to watch the display flick from armed to executed, to feel the weight leave your wings, and in that moment, feel it land on your shoulders. You grip the yoke tighter, not because the jet needs it, because you do. You're not afraid. You're not sure that's even possible anymore. You're something worse. You're ready. Reeves breaks the silence. We're not alone. You don't ask how he knows. You just nod. Because sometimes your skin knows before your senses do. You flick to passive scans. Something's out there. Far ahead. Maybe a drone. Maybe something that doesn't show up on your screens because it's flying like you. You mark it, log it, keep flying. Nothing changes. No alert. No intercept. Just the suggestion that you're being watched. Like a shadow recognizing its twin. You push it down. Focus. Because now you're at T-10. 10 minutes to arming window. 13 to drop. 17 to turn and vanish. The targeting computer runs a final alignment. Crosshair locks. Flight path adjusts. Just a hair to the left. Reeves arms the system. One switch. Two codes. One long second. The weapons bay responds. Hiss. Clunk. Ready. Everything gets colder. You adjust your visor. Wipe away sweat you didn't notice forming. The sky outside is pale blue now. Dawn is somewhere behind you. But up ahead it's still night. Target coordinates scroll across the screen. Bold, unblinking, certain. You hear your breath in your mask. Feel your pulse in your fingertips. The bay is open now. Below you, gravity is waiting. Reeves says, target acquired. You respond, release on vector. You're not the kind of pilot who hits the button. You're the kind of pilot who confirms the system that does. Because in the B-2, even the act of destruction is automated, sanitized. You don't pull a trigger. You supervise inevitability. And when the countdown reaches 0, you don't hesitate. You authorize. And just like that, the bomb falls. No sound. No flash. No tremor. Just a number disappearing from the screen. You don't watch it hit. You don't need to. You already feel it. The jet rises slightly. A subtle lift as 2,000 pounds vanish into the dark. You seal the bay. Turn to egress vector. Reeves is already ahead of you. Throttle adjusted. Flight path locked. Escape corridor plotted. You bank. Gently, like turning away from something you don't want to explain. Behind you, a light appears. Just one, Small, sharp, bright, then gone, and silence again. Not peaceful, not innocent, the kind that comes after. You're on your way home, sort of, but it doesn't feel like it. Not because the flight plan's unclear, not because the system's glitched, because you're still 40,000 feet above a world that doesn't know what just happened, and maybe never will. The bomb is gone, the strike confirmed, the systems are green, but you're grey, all over. This is the part no one talks about, the part after, the afterglow of precision. The soft silence that settles in once the adrenaline leaks out. You've still got 9 hours to go. Minimum 9 hours of air, 9 hours of systems checks, 9 hours of thinking you probably shouldn't be doing. The B-2 glides like a ghost with a secret. You've crossed back into Arctic airspace now. Nothing but sky and silence. No cities, no towers, no blinking lights on the horizon. Just absence. Reeves hasn't said anything in over 40 minutes. He's watching the threat matrix. Not because he expects anything, because it gives his hand something to do. You shift in your seat. Your hips ache, your knees pop. Your boots feel like they've grown around your feet. The cold has crept back in, slow and casual. Even with climate control, your gloves are stiff. Your fingers feel like they've been holding a thought too long. You exhale. Long, slow, shaky. The mission clock ticks over again. 6:04 Zulu. The moment is behind you now, but it's not gone. You don't feel triumph. You don't feel guilt. You feel distance, like someone did something through your hands. And now your body's just trying to reconcile that. Your brain knows what you did, but it hasn't let you feel it yet. And maybe it won't. Maybe that's why they picked you. Because you're the kind of person who can carry weight without setting it down anywhere. The sky shifts again. The northern lights shimmer at your 2 o'clock faint green curves dancing over a black sea of ice. Reeves notices them too. He doesn't comment, but you know he sees. You wonder if anyone down there felt it. The detonation, the shock, the tremor in the earth. Or if it was all so precise, so clean that it barely made a sound before everything went dark. That's the paradox of this jet. You cause maximum effect by making minimum presence. And now you're flying through the consequence, over a frozen nowhere that doesn't care if you exist. Below you the Arctic stretches like a bruise, brittle, silent, untouched. It makes you feel small, not scared, just honest. You click over to a new frequency, check in with early return protocol. There's no response, as expected. This leg of the journey is on autopilot in more ways than one. The B-2 flies herself out here. She knows what she's doing. You just guide her gently back toward the part of the map that has names again. Your stomach growls. You ignore it. Food feels like an insult right now. You sip more water. Your lips are cracked. Your tongue tastes like old aluminum. You should say something. To Reeves. To yourself. Instead, you ask the cockpit for a systems report. One line appears. Nav holding. Engines optimal. RCS clean. Weapons spent. That last one sits with you. Weapons spent. You feel that, in more ways than one. You lean back. Let your neck relax. Let your breath slow. The radio crackles, not with contact. Just static, atmospheric garbage. But it's noise. And right now, noise feels good. It means the outside world is still there. Still functioning. Still sending signals. Even if they are not for you. Reeves finally speaks. Altitude check. You glance at the altimeter. 49,000 stable. He nods. Goes quiet again. It's a pointless check. You already knew. But that's what the silence does to you up here. It makes you reach for anything to make the cockpit feel real. Because right now, it's too much like a dream. Or a memory someone else left behind in your skull. You rub your temple. You're not tired. You're drained. You imagine what people think this is like. Some might say it's heroic. Some might say it's soulless. But you know better. It's neither. It's math. It's pressure. It's ritual. You were trained for this. Not to feel. Not to celebrate. Not to grieve. To complete. To continue. To land. Refuel. Repeat. You look at the mission clock again. Still hours to go. The Arctic rolls beneath you like a forgotten chapter. You whisper something to yourself. You don't know what it was. A name? A prayer? A memory? Maybe nothing. Maybe you're just making sure your voice still works. Because when you've been up here this long, above borders, above rules, sometimes the scariest thing to lose is the sound of your own humanity. It's not in the mission plan. Not tonight. But it could have been. You know that. Reeves knows that. Everyone on the airfield, in the control room, in the Joint Chiefs chain of command, they all know. But sometimes the B-2 flies with something heavier than precision-guided bombs. Sometimes you fly with history's sharpest question. Sometimes you fly with nuclear. And it's never discussed. Not openly. Not even in the briefing. Cut you. Just a glance. A coded phrase. A line of the checklist that reads, payload type, D1. That's all it takes. And suddenly you're not just flying steel and fuel. You're flying a deterrent. A threat in motion. You check the systems again. Old habit. The strike's already behind you. This one was conventional. Still on target, message sent. But part of your loadout protocol included a bypass circuit, a switch that wouldn't be necessary unless that payload had been loaded. It wasn't, but it could have been. And when you fly a platform like this, you always have to ask, am I flying to prevent something, or to end it? The B-2 was built in silence, tested under cover, meant to do the unthinkable, quietly. You've seen the numbers. One nuke, dropped from altitude, yield in the hundreds of kilotons, wider than a city, louder than any scream. You've read the contingency documents, the launch codes, the multi-factor protocol that ends with 2 switches, and no undo button. It's a weird kind of power, not physical, not even emotional, just potential, like carrying a sun inside a box. And knowing you're the one holding the key. Most people can't imagine it. They picture red buttons, missile silos. Some Cold War cliché from a movie that never got the science right. But in reality, it's just you. 2 crew members, a checklist, and a calm voice over secure frequency that says, confirm. Then everything changes. You're not supposed to think about that. Especially not after a mission. But cruising over the Arctic, after a silent strike that no one will ever publicly acknowledge, it's hard not to. You glance at Reeves. He's quiet. Of course he is. But you know he's been cleared for nuclear ops too. You don't talk about it. You both carry the silence like part of your uniform. Because here's the truth, they never say out loud. When you're trained to fly nuclear, you never stop carrying it. Even when it's not on board. Even when your bay is empty. Or filled with steel and software instead of splitting atoms. you're still the weapon. It's not the device that scares people, it's the hands it's entrusted to. And when you look in the mirror after a flight like this, you sometimes wonder, would I? Would I flip the switch? Would I confirm the strike? Would I press send if the order came through clean? You've been trained not to hesitate. Because deterrence only works if the threat is real. And that means someone has to be willing to do it. Not just say they would. Actually, would. You close your eyes. Breathe slow. The hiss of your mask feels heavier now. You think about the weight of the protocols. The layers, the codes, the verifications. It's designed to make mistakes impossible. Designed to prevent impulse, but it can't remove intent. That still has to come from you. And in the end, it's not about systems. It's not about the physics. Not even about the politics. It's about trust. That someone like you, in a cockpit like this, at an altitude like that, would make the right call. Whatever right means. Outside, the Arctic stretches on. Untouched, unmoving. You fly through it like a myth. No one can see you. No one can track you. No one even knows you're here. But if you had a different payload tonight, if the word had been different at briefing, if those two JDAMs had been something else right now, you'd be flying the end of a story and the beginning of another. One that starts in flash and ends in shadow and has no sequel. You shake it off. No nukes tonight. Just steel and silence. Just one message sent. But you still feel it? The phantom weight. The memory of capability. Because flying this bird, every time you take off, you carry it. Not in your bomb bay, in your spine. There's no runway out here. No safe landing strip on Arctic ice. No gas station with a tarmac and a coffee machine. If you want to make it home, you need to meet someone in the sky. And they need to meet you perfectly. Refueling at altitude is not a manoeuvre. It's a ritual. One built on trust, patience, and the absolute refusal to blink. Your rendezvous is 15 minutes out. You've slowed. Dropped a few thousand feet. Trimmed your airspeed to match an aircraft that looks like it shouldn't still be flying. The KC-135 Stratotanker. Grey, bulky, aerial relic, flying gas can. You've seen it before, but it never stops being strange. It floats into view like a whale breaching cloud. Big, heavy, barely interested in aerodynamics. And yet, exactly where it needs to be. Right on time, right on vector, right on hope. You check systems. Again, fuel intake valves armed. Pressure equalizers, green. Refuel hatch, cycling. You say nothing. Reeves doesn't either. This isn't a time for words. This is a time for stillness. You ease the B-2 forward. Slower than slow. Throttle sensitivity down to decimal control. Hands on stick, eyes on altitude. The boom operator on the tanker is watching you. Somewhere in that belly, lying flat in a pod of reinforced glass. He's guiding a hose toward you like a needle through a hurricane. The refueling boom is already extending. Metal snake with a mind of its own. You match speed. Nose aligned. Wing pitch perfect. Altitude differential less than a foot. This is the closest thing the military gets to intimacy. The boom connects with a soft thud. Lock. Secure. And now, you drink. You're taking in thousands of pounds of fuel at 25,000 feet. Mid-air. Mid-mission. Mid-thought. And everything has to go right. Because this isn't a one-way risk. If you drift, too far left you clip the boom. Too far right you tear it loose. Too fast and you override the pressure intake. You could ignite, or stall, or worse, fall, not crash. Just fall. Right out of the sky. 2 aircraft, 400 tons combined, connected by a metal straw in the belief that both pilots know when to breathe. You're sweating. You hadn't noticed. But your palms are soaked. The stick is slick. Your arms are sore from holding still. And Reeves? He's watching your instrument panel like it might blink betrayal. Neither of you speaks. You just count. Fuel rate, flow, internal balance. Gallons scream through pipes like blood through an open artery. The B-2 swells with life again. She's thirsty. Always has been. That's the paradox. She's built to fly across the globe, but she can't get home without help. Just like you. You glance at the tanker. Its belly flexes under stress. You imagine the operator's face, half bored, half alert, waiting for a twitch that never comes. This is his whole job. Hook the ghosts. Feed the monsters. Let them go. It takes 9 minutes. 9 minutes of flying 1 inch at a time. And then disengage. Click. The boom retracts. The B-2 pulls away like a diver breaking surface. You throttle up, climb a few hundred feet, re-establish cruise. The tanker doesn't wave, doesn't radio, just banks, turns, vanishes, back into the clouds, back into anonymity. You exhale, long, deep, unfiltered. Your hands ache. Your eyes sting. Reeves nods. Barely. Good refuel. You made it. You're heavy again. But it's the right kind of heavy. You can reach the States now. Straight shot. No second rendezvous needed. But you're not thinking about that yet. You're still shaking the feeling that 2 machines, built decades apart, just kissed in the sky like old lovers, with nothing left to say. You flex your fingers. Drink some water. Your mouth is dry from the tension. And part of you wants to laugh. Because here you are, flying one of the deadliest aircraft ever built. And the part that gets your pulse racing is a fuel transfer. But that's the truth. Because flying isn't just about combat. It's about precision. About making no mistakes in a world that doesn't forgive any. The cockpit is calm again. Autopilot engaged. Altitude restored. The bomb's been dropped. The strike is done. And now you're full. Fed. Fueled. Pointed home. But you're not safe. Not yet. Because the sky doesn't guarantee survival. And gravity never forgets. There's no parade on the way back. No music. No welcome. No acknowledgement. Just altitude and airspeed. Vectors and vapour trails you never leave. The B-2 turns west. Homeward bound. Mission behind you. But nothing feels finished. You're in what they call the return corridor. The designated airspace. Secret. Narrow. Invisible to most radar, but that doesn't mean you're alone. Because nothing this valuable ever flies unmonitored. Somewhere out there, far above or far below, there's probably another jet. Not escorting you, just watching. Just ready. An F-22 maybe, invisible like you, flying wide arcs around your shadow to make sure the sky stays empty. You'll never see them. They won't speak, but you feel them. Shadows always travel in pairs, even if they pretend not to. You're still over the Arctic. But now the darkness is behind you. The sky is turning. There's a pink line on the horizon. Like the world is starting to remember the sun again. Reeves says nothing. Just tracks airspeed, runs nav updates, checks the oxygen feed for the 5th time. You do the same. There's nothing urgent now, but urgency isn't the only thing that kills you. Complacency does it slower, quieter, but just as sure. You scan your MFD again. Fuel, green. Comms, silent. Threat radar, still blank. And yet, you know you're not unobserved. Satellites, sensors, eyes with no faces, watching your heat signature crawl across their sky like a spider made of shadows. You wonder if any of them know what you dropped, or where. They won't say it. Just log it. Flag it. Mention it in a report read by someone too tired to care. And still you carry it. Not the weapon, that's long gone. But the knowledge, the after, the memory of a moment no one else witnessed. The flicker, the flash, the change. And now, the long silence afterward. You shift in your seat. Your back is stiff. Your knees feel older than you are. You unbuckle the lap restraint, just for a second. Stretch your legs. Feel the blood come back in a slow tingling wave. Then you strap back in. Always strapped in. Because the return corridor isn't a glide path. It's a gauntlet. Not of missiles, of hours. Long, slow, unavoidable hours. This is the part where mistakes happen. When the mission is technically over. When focus starts to fade. When pilots start to relax. You don't. You never do. Because it's not over until your boots touch concrete. Until the canopy lifts. Until the hangar lights flicker back on and remind you that gravity still owns you. Reeves runs another systems check. He doesn't have to. But it gives his hands something to do. You check on him. He looks tired. Not exhausted. Just used. Like a blade that's cut something it didn't want to. You don't speak. You just offer him the water tube. He drinks. Nods. Gratitude without words. Outside, the clouds are thinning. You see a sliver of ocean below, black-blue, empty. Somewhere out there, a freighter moves across a trade lane. Unaware. Unaffected. You envy them. The people on deck, smoking or joking or pacing their shift. They don't know there's a bomber above them. $1 billion shape slicing air like a scalpel in God's hand. And if they did, would it change anything? Probably not. The best part of stealth is the lack of attention. And the worst part is the same. You check the nav. Still on track. Still inside corridor. ETA to coast, 2 hours. You're in the last act now. The final leg of a journey that no one will hear about. There will be no press release. No statement. No ribbon. Just a debrief. A shutdown checklist. And maybe 8 hours of sleep. More likely, 4. You rub your temples. The helmet is too tight. The visor has been pressing into your brow for 9 hours, but you don't take it off. Not yet. Not while you're still in the corridor. Not while anything could still go wrong. Because every war story that ends with silence earned it. Every pilot who made it home paid for it in patience. You breathe again and again and again. The kind of breath that doesn't ask for relief. Just continuation. Because you're not done. You're still flying. Still above the world. Still somewhere between consequence and conclusion. And until you land, you're still the shadow. The landing is smooth. Textbook. One gentle touch. A whisper of tire to runway. No bounce. No skid. Just contact. As if the jet was never gone. But you were. You still are. The hangar lights are low as you taxi in. No fanfare. No applause. No camera crews or clipboard salutes. Just a yellow vest ground crew waving you toward the spot. His arms move slow, practiced. He doesn't know what you dropped. Or maybe he does. Doesn't matter. He's not paid to care. The engines power down, gradually, each turbine winding down like a god going to sleep. The silence that follows feels louder than anything before it. Reeves doesn't speak. You don't either. You just sit. Let the moment stretch. Let the cockpit breathe. Because in a second you'll unseal, open canopy, let the air in. Let the mission out. You pop the latch, hiss. The cockpit opens, cool air floods in. Smells like oil, metal, earth. You forgot what ground smelled like. You climb down slowly, boots hitting the ladder, knees stiff, arms sore. Gravity feels personal again. You step onto the tarmac and blink into the pale glow of hangar fluorescence. A tech approaches, doesn't speak, just points. Debrief room. You nod, walk. Every step feels strange, like the rhythm is off. Too slow, too quiet. Your body's here. But the rest of you, still at altitude, still on station, still watching the horizon for something that never came. The debrief room is colder than it should be. Not physically, just emotionally. Grey walls, no windows, 2 chairs, 1 screen. A man waits, not in uniform. Civilian clearance. You've seen him before. Maybe. Hard to tell. They all look the same in this light. He doesn't smile, doesn't introduce himself. Just gestures. Sit. You sit. Reeves takes the other chair. No words. Just the scrape of plastic on concrete. The man taps a tablet. You're back on the record. You nod. Mission code? You recite it, monotone, precise. Like you're saying someone else's birthday. Release confirmed? You nod. Say the time, the coordinates, the altitude. He types, never looks up. Anomalies? Reeves shakes his head. You do the same. You could mention the refueling tension, the shadow you thought you saw at altitude, the light in the distance after the drop. But you don't, because they don't want that. They want the data. They want green lights, safe landings, clean kill boxes. And you delivered that. You say, no anomalies. The man types again, swipes, hands the tablet to you. You read through the log, confirm the timestamp, verify your call sign. There's a red box at the bottom. Acknowledge mission completion and return. You sign, finger to glass, like giving permission to forget. Reeves signs next. The screen goes black. The man stands. Good work. That's it. That's your closure. That's your reward. Not a medal. Not a headline. Just good work from someone whose name you're not supposed to know. You stand. So does Reeves. No eye contact. Not with each other. Not with the man. Not with yourself. The room feels even colder now. But that's the point. You're not supposed to feel warm after this. You walk out, down the hallway, past lockers, pipes, quiet vending machines. Every footstep echoes. Outside, the night is quiet. The base is still. You pass a few other airmen. They don't stop you. They don't nod. If they know what you did tonight, they don't show it. You make it back to the ready room. Strip out of the flight suit. Slow. Careful. Like peeling off a version of yourself. One that no longer belongs here. The gloves come off. Then the boots. Then the name tag. You catch your reflection in the mirror above the sink. You look. Fine. No visible damage. No blood. Just eyes that look too far away. Like you've been standing outside your own life, watching. You splash cold water on your face. Let it drip. Let it anchor you. Then you dry your hands. The routine keeps you grounded, Not emotion, not clarity, just steps. You head for the exit. The door opens with a click that feels like punctuation. Outside, the air is crisp. The stars are back. And you're still here, but quieter, inside, where no one hears it. Reeves meets you at the edge of the parking lot. He lights a cigarette. You didn't know he smoked. He takes one drag, looks up, says, "No one ever talks about the ride home." You nod, and you both stand there, in silence. Not because there's nothing to say, but because everything that could be said would only make it heavier. You walk out of the building alone. No one follows, no one calls out, no one takes your picture. That's the point. There are no medals for ghosts, no ribbons for silence, just paperwork sealed, stored, classified, and a nameplate that gets quietly filed into a drawer no one outside the program will ever read. You get in your car, still warm from the sun, even though it's the middle of the night. You sit in the driver's seat, stare through this windshield, and realise something strange. No one knows where you've been. Not your neighbour, not your barber, not the guy who nods at you every morning in the base gym. You were above the Arctic. You dropped a weapon that erased a building. And now you're back sipping gas station coffee and checking your rearview mirror like any other guy on the road. You pull out of the lot. Drive slow. The base fades behind you, shrinking in the mirror until it's nothing but red tail lights and sodium fog. You don't turn on music. You let the engine hum, let your thoughts scatter, let your name vanish a little more with every mile. Because here's the part no one says out loud. Being a B-2 pilot means being invisible. Even when you're right in front of them. You'll never be in the history books. Your missions won't be taught in schools. There's no movie deal coming. You didn't save the world. You just kept it spinning one more day. And that's the kind of thing people forget quickly. You drive through town. The same gas stations. Same 24-hour diners. Same strip mall with that weird shoe store that's never open that never closed. You know all of it. It hasn't changed. But you have. And no one can see it. That's the design. The program doesn't want heroes. It wants ghosts. It wants names that don't get spoken. Faces that don't get remembered. It wants men who come back with bloodless hands and sleepless eyes and show up for PT at 0600 like nothing ever happened. And the hardest part, you're okay with that. At least you tell yourself you are, because you didn't sign up for fame. You signed up for control, for precision, for the chance to do something that mattered even if no one ever knew, and now you're living the result. Alone. Unknown. But alive. You park outside your apartment. The lights are off inside. Just the porch lamp flickering a little. A bulb you've meant to change for weeks. You sit in the car for a while. Hands on the wheel. Engine ticking as it cools. Then you kill the lights. Open the door. The night air wraps around you like a coat you forgot you owned. You walk to the door, unlock it, step inside. The quiet hit's different here. It's not strategic, not part of a mission. It's just empty. You take off your boots, drop your keys in the bowl by the fridge. Open it, stare inside, half a sandwich. Water bottle. Leftover Chinese from 3 days ago. You're not hungry. You shut the fridge. Stand there in the dark. This is the part of the mission that never gets logged. No timestamp, no coordinates, no debrief. Just silence. You shower. Hot water. Too hot. But you don't turn it down. You stand there until your fingers wrinkle. until the mirror fogs, until your heartbeat stops echoing against the tile. You towel off, put on the same t-shirt you always do. You don't remember where you got it. You sit on the edge of the bed, hands clasped, back straight like you're still in the cockpit. Your phone lights up. A message from a friend. Yo, beer tomorrow? You stare at it. Type, sure. Don't send it. Type, can't, sorry. Don't send that either. You put the phone down. Screen glowing, then fading to black. You lie back, close your eyes, and wonder, does it still count? If no one knows you did it, if there's no flag to plant, no photo, no nameplate on a wall, does it still matter? You already know the answer. You didn't fly that mission for glory. You flew it because someone had to. Because systems were green, and targets were confirmed, and the sky was quiet until it wasn't. Because you could. Because you were chosen. Because the world only keeps spinning when someone agrees to stay invisible so that others don't have to. They'll never know your name. And that's the job. That's the point. That's the cost. It's been a day. Maybe 2. You've slept, technically. Showered. Changed clothes. Smiled when someone said, welcome back. But that version of you, the real one, the pilot, he didn't come back with the flight. Not all of him. Because when you wear that helmet long enough, it starts to feel less like equipment. And more like you. There's a photo on your desk. Old, you in training. Helmet under one arm, eyes too bright, mouth too clean. You look at it sometimes. Wonder what that kid thought he was signing up for. Adventure? Duty? Control? You stare at his face and realise you're not sure what he would think of you now. You've flown missions he never imagined. Crossed borders without permission. Left things behind that no one will ever talk about. And you've done it all inside a suit designed to erase you. That's what the helmet is for. To anonymise. To separate. To blur the line between person and platform. When you're wearing it, you don't have a name. Just a call sign. A mission code. A chain of command. Your voice is filtered through layers of plastic and protocol. Your thoughts are reduced to altitude, fuel, payload, timing. You're not you in there. You're function. And when the mission ends, when the helmet comes off, there's always a moment. Small, quiet, but brutal. It's the moment you look at yourself and think I was just a weapon. And then you have to figure out how to stop being one. You sit on the couch, TV off, phone face down, just the room breathing around you. Your flight gear is still in the corner, folded, clean, ready. You haven't put it away. Can't. Because putting it away would mean letting go of the part of you that made sense. And that's the strange part. In the jet, everything does make sense. You have rules, vectors, objectives. Life is math. Cold, clean, simple. But outside the cockpit, it's static, noise, ambiguity. Too many choices and not enough altitude. You rub your face. Feel the ghost of the oxygen mask on your cheeks. You've never told anyone this, but sometimes you miss the feeling of sealing that helmet. The hiss of pressure. The isolation. The clarity. Because when it's on, you don't have to be anything else. No emotions. No doubt. Just a machine with a heartbeat. And that's easier than pretending to be normal. You walk into the bathroom, look in the mirror. Same face, same skin. But the eyes are heavier. Not tired, just carried, like they've seen too much sky. and not enough sunlight. You lean in close, whisper something, not to hear it, to test if you still sound like you. Because after long missions, after targets and threat corridors and the pressure of silence, you forget. You forget how you laugh, how you speak when no one's listening, what your voice sounds like without a helmet between you and the world. You step back, flick off the light, let your reflection disappear. That feels more honest, because outside the cockpit, you don't always know who you are. Not anymore. You go back to the couch, sit down, exhale. You pick up the helmet, not to wear it, just to hold it. It's heavier than you remember. Cool, solid, worn. You run your thumb over the visor. There's a scratch you didn't notice before. You don't know where it came from. Could have been on the ramp. Could have been from climbing in too fast. Could have been from that turbulence over the pole. Or maybe it was always there. A fracture you just didn't see. And now that you do see it, you can't unsee it. Kind of like yourself. Because maybe that's what flying a B-2 does to you. It doesn't just change what you do, it changes what you notice. What you carry. What you leave behind. What you allow yourself to remember. The missions are silent, but the pilot, the real pilot, is always making noise, even if it's only on the inside. You set the helmet down, not on the shelf, not on the hook, just beside you, like it belongs there, like it's part of the furniture now. Because maybe it is. Maybe you are. A pilot in peacetime. A shadow in daylight. A man who exists between moments and hopes no one ever asks what that's like. They won't. They'll see the uniform, the patch, the clean boots. They'll thank you, respect you, admire you. But they'll never know you. Not really. Because to know you they'd have to fly what you've flown. And you wouldn't wish that on anyone. The bed is made, sheets pulled tight, corners squared, pillow fluffed, unused. It looks like a place to sleep, but it's not. Not yet. Not tonight. You lie down anyway, because that's what you're supposed to do, because the checklist doesn't extend into dreams. You turn off the lights, the room goes still, too still. You close your eyes, nothing happens. Sleep doesn't come. Not because you're awake, but because your body still thinks there, still strapped into the seat, still cradled by 170 feet of black carbon and warhead silence. Your mind knows the mission's over, but your muscles never got the memo. They're still braced, still listening for alarms that won't sound, still waiting for turbulence that never comes. You roll over, try the other side, same result. Your pulse is too steady. You're breathing too careful, like you're afraid that if you drift too far, you'll fall into something you can't climb back out of. You open your eyes, dark ceiling, stillness, and just the faintest echo of white noise in your ears. It's not real, just memory. But it's there. The hum of the cockpit, the hydraulic whisper, the radio static that meant you were still connected to something larger. Now it's just you. You and the absence of threat. And somehow that feels worse. Because when there's danger, you have purpose. You have structure, reaction, mission. But here in the dark, you're just a person. And that's the hardest part. Not the flying, not the bombing, not the coming home. The hardest part is remembering how to be a person after all of it. You think about what you dropped. You told yourself not to. You always do. but it creeps in. The coordinates, the confirmation code, the weight of the release. You didn't see the impact, but you felt it. Not in your hands, not in the jet, in your chest. That half-second moment of lightness when the payload left, when the aircraft rose ever so slightly, when everything inside you tried to rise with it and failed. That's what keeps you up. Not guilt, not pride, just the fact that something happened, and you're the only one who knows what it felt like. You sit up, rub your eyes. The clock blinks, 3:14. Still hours before sunrise. Still nowhere to go. You stand, walk to the kitchen, pour a glass of water. It tastes like nothing. You drink it anyway. You pace a little. One end of the room, then the other. You try lying down again. Same result. The sheets feel foreign. The pillow too soft. Your body wants resistance. A harness. Steel under your back. Something solid to push against. Because that's what flying taught you. To fight sleep. To fly through exhaustion. To mistrust rest until it's earned. And even when it is, it's not easy. Because sleep isn't peace. Not for you. Not anymore. You drift eventually. Not deeply. Not safely. Just enough to forget where you are. Just enough to hear the engines again. Just enough to feel the lift of the wings right before the world disappears. You dream in altitude. You dream in countdowns. You dream in radio codes that mean yes, no, and don't ask. And when you wake an hour later, 2, maybe less, you don't remember anything. Just the sound of your own breath in a quiet room and the weight of a helmet that's no longer there, but somehow still pressing against your skin. Sleep comes slowly, if at all. But that's okay, because tomorrow, the checklist starts again. The eggs are too yellow, the kind of yellow that only comes from a plastic jug, poured onto a hot grill by a kid who's barely awake. You sit at the counter, same diner as always, 4 miles off base, open all night, quiet in the mornings. The waitress doesn't know where you were last night. She doesn't know you just flew 30 hours round trip, over 4 countries, through 1 kill box. She doesn't know you dropped ordnance onto a target that doesn't officially exist. She just asks, "Want coffee?" You nod. She pours. Black. Bitter. Instant. It hits your tongue like burnt promises. You drink it anyway. Reeves sits beside you. No uniform. No patch. Just jeans and a grey hoodie. He looks like a guy on his way to a hardware store. Which is exactly the point. He's reading the menu, not because he needs to, but because it's something to look at. You don't need a menu. You always get the same thing. Scrambled, toast, dry, side of bacon, extra napkins even though you barely use one. The waitress comes back, takes your order, doesn't ask questions. You like that about this place. No one needs to know who you are here. You're just a tired guy in a corner seat, wearing a ball cap, blinking against the sunlight bleeding in through dusty blinds. It's quiet. Just the clink of cutlery, the hiss of the griddle, and the soft hum of a radio in the kitchen playing yesterday country hits. You glance around. 1 guy in a booth with a laptop. 2 old men at a table laughing about something too quiet to hear. A mother in scrubs wrangling a toddler with dry Cheerios and a juice box. No one's looking at you. No one knows you. They don't know you've been gone. They don't know what you did. They don't know that you returned from the edge of war, slept for 97 minutes, and now you're deciding between grape jelly and strawberry jam. It's almost funny, but not quite. Reeves takes a bite of toast. He doesn't say anything. He doesn't have to. The silence between you two is its own kind of language, one made of vectors, checklists, moments you'll never say out loud. Your food arrives, you eat, methodical, like you're checking off boxes. You realise you're chewing in tempo same rhythm as the bomb release countdown. You pause. Force yourself to slow down. Taste the bite. Feel the heat. The eggs are too soft. The toast is dry. The bacon's perfect. You glance out the window. Sunrise. Normal people see hope in it. To you, it just looks like another mission window. Good visibility. No precipitation. Clean approach vector. You finish your plate. Reeves does the same. The check is small. You pay in cash. Leave too much tip. Not because you're generous. Because you need to feel like something from last night was worth it. You stand. Push in your chair. Reeves follows you to the door. Outside it's warm. Too warm for how cold you still feel inside. You squint up at the sky. Empty. You wonder how many people live their entire lives without ever looking up and knowing what's up there. Without ever realising how many shadows pass over them every night, silently, watching, waiting, deciding. You feel it again, that strange tug between two worlds. Out here, you're just another guy walking to his car. Another hoodie and boots in a parking lot that smells like grease and wet concrete. But yesterday, you were a weapon. You were untouchable, untraceable, unseen. And now, you're thinking about doing laundry. Reeves gets in his truck, gives you a nod. Not a goodbye. Just, we made it. You nod back. He drives off. You sit in your car for a minute. Let the engine idle. Let the real world settle back onto your shoulders, like a coat you forgot you were wearing. The coffee jitters hit late. Your hands are shaking just a little. You look at them, still attached, still capable, still here. You grip the wheel, breathe, and drive. Because breakfast is over, sleep is behind you, the sky is clear, and the next mission? Always closer than you think. The dreams don't make sense anymore. Not because they're scary, not because they're chaotic, but because they're accurate. Too accurate. You wake up sometimes not remembering the dream, but remembering the grid, latitude, longitude, altitude. Clear as if you just briefed it, as if you just confirmed it. You blink. It's 3:41 a.m. and instead of thinking about where you are, you think, N47 degree 52.269, E22 degree 37.084. That's not a memory, that's a reflex. You used to dream of oceans, storms running too slow. Now you dream in air corridors. Now you dream in code words you haven't said aloud in weeks, in the weight of a switch you haven't touched, in the soft thump of payload release. Sometimes you feel the jet banking, in the dream, in your bed. Your body leans just slightly. Heart ticks upward. Shoulders tense. The B-2 isn't there. Not really. But your body still thinks it is. Because part of you never got out of the cockpit, and you're not sure it wants to. The dreams are quiet, but loaded. You walk through hallways made of fog and fibre optics. You speak into radios that never answer. You hear Reeves once asking for the systems check. You give it, half asleep, fully committed. You wake up staring at your bedroom ceiling, already halfway through the engine diagnostics. You sit up, rub your eyes, stretch your neck until it pops, and for one disorienting second, you look around and think, where is the canopy? Then it fades. The confusion, the mission, the memory, but the coordinates stay. They always do. And it's not just one. There's a list, burned into your brain like a manifest you never signed. Some are old, targets from years back. Missions so clean you forgot the reason but never the location. Others are recent. Too recent. Like the one you dropped 3 nights ago. The building. The heat signature. The second explosion that wasn't supposed to happen. You never asked what it was. You never will. Because that's the job. Dream or not. Your phone buzzes. It's nothing. A calendar reminder. Groceries. An appointment. But for a split second, your heart thinks it's an alert. You read the message. Forget it immediately. Because all your attention is still back there. Still watching that dot on a black screen count down to 0. You lie back down, close your eyes, try again. Try to dream of something else. Anything else. But your brain has a new default. It doesn't give you beaches or cities or faces. It gives you TGT designator, 13 alpha. Payload armed, Y. Drop in, 0 hours, 0 minutes and 7 seconds. You try to push it away, but the numbers stay. The targeting envelope pulses behind your eyelids, and the shape of the Earth curves just slightly, like you're there again, above it, watching it breathe, and deciding whether it gets to keep doing that. You wake up, you always do, but never rested, only emptied. You splash water on your face, lean on the sink, look in the mirror. You don't look tired, but that's because tired is temporary. This is something deeper. This is when you dream in coordinates. And you know deep down those aren't just missions anymore. They're parts of you. Places you'll never visit, but will always occupy. Long after the payload is gone. Long after the reports are filed. Long after you're someone else again. You don't call it a squadron. Not out loud. Not in front of others. Because squadron implies something visible. Something you can point to and say, that's us. But you're not built for that. You're not a banner on a wall. You're not a group photo. You're not something anyone brags about at the bar. You're something else entirely. You're a ghost. And ghosts travel in silence. The others? You see them sometimes, walking across the tarmac at 0400. Standing by the vending machine in the hangar, hunched over flight computers in briefing rooms that smell like cold coffee and burned ambition. They nod. Sometimes. Other times they just keep walking. Not out of rudeness, out of understanding. Because when you fly B-2S, you learn very quickly connection is a liability. Silence is survival. Still, there's something about seeing them, knowing they were up there too. Maybe not on your mission, maybe not over the same airspace, but they know. They know. The loneliness, the clarity, the way your heartbeat aligns with altitude. You remember one in particular, a guy called Mercer, tall, quiet, always wore his bald cap low, like he was hiding from something that had his name. You flew the corridor the night after your strike. You never asked what he dropped. You never asked about yours. But the next morning, he passed you a cup of coffee in the ready room. Said nothing. Just slid it across the table. The cup was hot, black, no lid. You drank it anyway. And in that moment, that was enough. That was Squadron, not the patches, not the meetings, not the rosters hidden behind layers of clearance. Just two people, wearing the same quiet, carrying the same weight. You see them in passing, at the gym, at the range, in the PX, buying the same off-brand protein bars and pretending the outside world fits. They don't talk about the missions. They talk about rotator cuff pain, about vehicle maintenance, about how terrible the base Wi-Fi still is. It's code. Translation. I'm still here. I still fly. I'm still human, mostly. You wonder how many of them have dreams like yours. How many wake up sweating from a mission they never admitted scared them. How many keep a notebook of coordinates they'll never say out loud. Some of them laugh. Tell stories. Usually about the old days. Like the past gives you permission to be honest. But even then, the edges are blurry. Because even now, even years later, there are details they don't say. And you don't ask. Because you're not just protecting them. You're protecting yourself. You remember the hangar Christmas party? Lights, music. A punch bowl someone tried to spike but got caught. There were maybe 12 of you there. All ghosts. Out of uniform. Trying hard to look like people who belonged in a crowd. It was awkward. Too bright. Too loud. You left after 15 minutes, but before you walked out, you saw Mercer again. He raised his cup. You nodded. And that was it. Not a farewell. Not a conversation. Just the kind of look that said, I see you. I see the part of you that doesn't sleep. The part that sits in the cockpit when the rest of you is here in this room. And that meant something. Because no one else gets it. Not the command. Not the techs. Not the families, no matter how much they love you. Only the ghosts. Only the ones who fly without being seen. Only the ones who come home without fanfare. Only the ones who vanish and then quietly reappear like nothing happened. That's the B-2 squadron. Not a team. Not a unit. A presence. You don't march together. You don't post selfies. You don't shout. You nod. You show up. You fly. And then you disappear again. That's what you are. Not warriors. Not legends. Just shadows. And in the places where history doesn't record, that's where your names echo soft, precise, forgotten on purpose. And that's okay, because ghosts don't need glory, they just need each other. It's right there, just below the throttle, left of centre, shielded, lit with a dull red glow, like it knows what it is. You've seen it 1,000 times. You've reached near it, trained on it, built muscle memory around not touching it. Because it's not like the others. It's not for diagnostics, not for flaps, fuel, lights, comms. It's for something final. The button you never press, the one no one talks about in detail. Not in the briefings, not in the simulators. Not even in the classified binders that smell like ink and fear. They call it the final authorizer. Sterile. Technical. But you know what it is. Everyone who flies this jet knows that behind this button, buried under confirmation codes and voice verifications and split-second encrypted relays, lies the end of things. Not just people. Cities, systems, ideas. This button is a graveyard waiting for coordinates, and you have the power to open it. You think about it sometimes, not because you want to, not because you would, but because you have to. Because pretending it's not real makes it more dangerous. And because one day, someone might tell you to press it. And if that day ever comes, there won't be time for philosophy, just action. You sit in the cockpit during training, mid-mission sim, same altitude, same route, same quiet hum of systems ticking over in rhythm. And then the order comes through. Confirm payload armed, awaiting execution protocol. It's just a drill, but your throat still tightens. Your fingers still hover over the keys like they're made of glass. Reeves looks at you. No words, just the slight nod. He's ready. He always is. And that's what scares you. Not him, not yourself. The readiness. The fact that you could. You run the checklist. Just like always, one line at a time. Each step taking you closer to the final authorizer. The switch. The key. The button. You reach it. And then, abort. Mission call cancelled. Drill over. You exhale like you've been underwater. Because you were. And that breath? It's the kind of breath only people who've almost crossed a line will ever understand. You think about the reality of it. The real button, on a real mission, with real payload. Not inert. Not practice. Live. A command from someone whose face you'll never see. Delivered in a monotone that leaves no room for negotiation. Confirm strike, and you will. Or you won't. But either way, the decision will have to live somewhere. And you know it won't live in the headlines, or the history books, or the speeches. It'll live here, in your chest, behind your ribs, pressed against your heartbeat like a second rhythm that never sinks. Because that's the part no one prepares you for. Not pressing it. Living with the idea that you could have. Living with the truth that someone else might one day ask you to. And you won't have time to weigh the world. You'll just have coordinates, altitude, a launch window measured in seconds. You touch the edge of the switch housing during post-flight. Just once. A gesture. Nothing more. But it stays with you. Long after the flight. Long after the debrief. Long after you've taken the gear off and washed your face and sat alone with a glass of water you forgot to drink. That button. It's in you now. Not physically. But it's there. The capacity. The readiness. The absence of hesitation. You tell yourself it's hypothetical. That it's there so it's never used. That deterrence is what keeps the world from spinning off its axis. And most days you believe that. You need to believe that. But some nights when the sky is too quiet, when the dreams get too loud, you remember it's still there, waiting, silent, ready. And so are you. There's a file with your name on it, somewhere deep inside a concrete building, in a drawer that doesn't open without the right badge, in a room with no windows. That file has the date of your last mission, the takeoff time, the flight path, the payload weight, the exact coordinates of impact. It has the satellite confirmation, the mission code, the encrypted signature that proves the bomb left the bay and never came back. But that's all it has. It doesn't say what you felt. It doesn't say what the target was. Doesn't explain why your hand shook an hour later, or why your voice cracked when you said, "Release confirmed." It doesn't mention the silence that followed, or how it stretched, or how it's still stretching now. The truth is, the most important parts of the mission, they'll never write those down. There's no field for the moment you saw the curvature of the Earth, and wondered if it knew what you'd just done. No checkbox for how long you stared at the fuel gauge, hoping it would mean you could turn back. No report line for how still Reeves sat when the call came through. There's a form that says mission successful, but no space for "and the pilot hasn't slept in 2 days. That's by design. Because the B-2 isn't built for legacy. It's built for impact. It's not about stories. It's about results. If you did your job right, no one even knows you were there. And so, the files stay clean, sanitized, labelled and logged. The deeper truths? They live in the things you don't say, the conversations that end before they start, the glances across the hangar that carry more weight than 1,000 pages, the unspoken agreement between pilots to forget just enough to keep flying, and the rest? That goes with you, not into the report, not into the system, into your ribs, into your breath, into the part of your brain that locks it all away, so you can function in line at the grocery store, without dropping to your knees. You think about all the people you've passed since you landed. The gas station clerk, the cop on the corner, the kid with the skateboard who almost clipped your bumper. None of them know. And they never will. Because you can't say, I erased a location from the Earth last night and came home in time to feed my dog. Because that doesn't fit anywhere. Not in the news. Not in a movie. Not in history. Because history only remembers what's allowed to be told. And this isn't allowed. Not because it's shameful. Not because it's wrong. But because it's fragile. The illusion that the world stays upright because nothing happens at night. It's easier than the truth that you made sure it didn't fall apart with the push of a button and no one ever noticed. That's the story. Not the flight. Not the plane. Not the payload. The silence. And that silence, it's yours now. Not the kind you can escape. The kind you live in. The kind that follows you into elevators and mirrors and 3 a.m. drives with the radio off. You are part of something that will never be spoken. And that's not a burden. It's a promise. A weight you agreed to carry, so others wouldn't have to. So others could look at the sky and see only clouds. And if that doesn't make it into the report, that's fine. You'll remember it anyway. And when the time comes, you'll take it with you. Everyone thinks stealth is silence. That it's quiet, clean, invisible. That once the landing gear tucks in and the gear doors seal the dress, you become a shadow, moving through air without making a sound. And in a way, they're right. The B-2 doesn't roar, it whispers. Its 4 engines are buried deep inside the body, hidden like lungs under ribs. There are no sharp edges, no angles, no radar signature to reflect. Just a shape that curves like smoke and disappears just as easily. But inside stealth has a sound. It's a constant hum, low, dense, mechanical. It pulses through your seat, into your boots, through the bones of your forearms. It's not loud, but you never stop hearing it, even with the helmet on, even with the cabin pressurized, even with Reeves tapping out a nav code in quiet concentration beside you. It's always there, a presence, like the sound your house makes when no one's talking. Not silence, but structure. It's the drone of trust. The feeling that all systems are green, even when the sky says otherwise. And it's more than just vibration. It's rhythm. After enough flights, your brain sinks to it. You start to breathe in time with it. Think in tempo. Turn, adjust. Trim all in alignment with the song of the aircraft. You stop flying it. You become it. And that's where stealth lives. Not in the shape, not in the absence of radar, but in you, in your discipline, your restraint, your ability to sit in a jet for 30 hours and make no mistakes. That's the sound. That's stealth. Not the absence of noise, the presence of precision, because the world beneath you, it's anything but quiet. Cities buzzing, radars spinning, People laughing, arguing, moving through lives they never know are under surveillance. But you're above it. Literally, physically, tactically. And the only thing keeping them from seeing you is that you're not making the kind of sound they understand. That's the paradox. Stealth doesn't mean invisible. It means uninterpretable. You're there, but they don't know what you are, don't know what to look for, don't know what the faint shape on a screen might mean if they see it at all. And even if they did, it would already be too late, because you're past them, gone, still humming, still moving, still broad here, gone, still humming, still moving, still broadcasting a frequency no one else is tuned to hear. That's what sticks with you on the ground. Not the roar of engines, not the adrenaline, not the drama, the tone. You hear it when the fridge kicks on, when your neighbour mows the lawn, when your car idles at a red light, a layer beneath everything. Your body tuned to a noise most people never notice. Your nervous system still aligned to a jet that hums like a lie you've never confessed. That's the sound of stealth. Subtle, persistent, permanent. It becomes part of you. So that even in bed, 3 nights later, in the dark, when you haven't spoken to anyone for hours, you swear you can still hear it. That slow thrum. That frequency you once matched perfectly. And for a second, you wonder, did I leave the jet? Or did the jet leave something in me? There's a book in your drawer. Doesn't look like much. Plain black cover. No insignia. No title. It's not government issue. Not tactical. Not cleared. It's yours. You bought it on base PX aisle between notebooks and 3-ring binders. Told the cashier it was for flight notes. It wasn't a lie. Not exactly. But it also wasn't the whole truth. Because this book doesn't log speeds, or waypoints, or system diagnostics. This one logs the other stuff. The stuff that doesn't make it into official records. The things no one wants to read. The things you're not supposed to remember. It starts quiet. A few scribbled coordinates. A date. A name maybe not even real. Then more. 1 entry for each mission. Not every mission, no. Just the ones that stuck. Because some leave scratches. Others leave holes. You pull the book out sometimes when no one's around. Middle of the night. Rain tapping the window. Clock blinking, a time that doesn't matter. You open it. And remember, 1 entry begins with a smell. Jet fuel, sand and static electricity. You know exactly what mission that was. The takeoff was late. Dust storm on the runway. Reeves had a cold and didn't talk the entire flight. You dropped 2 packages that night. Only 1 was expected. You didn't log the second one. Not officially. But here you wrote. Second detonation unplanned. Thermal flare visible from FL 430. No confirmation. Still waiting. Another page has a single line. Did I feel relief or regret? You've never answered it. Maybe you don't want to. There's an entry halfway through the book that doesn't mention flying at all. It talks about your father. How he used to take you to air shows. How he never made it into the Air Force. How proud he was when you did. You wrote, he always said flying was freedom. He never saw the inside of a cockpit. Never had to decide if a blip on radar lives or dies. You wrote that the night you got back from a mission with 4 active targets. One of them turned out to be a decoy. You didn't know until after. And even then, no one said it out loud. The entry ends with, "I wonder if he'd still be proud, or if he'd just nod and say you did what you had to." The pages aren't neat. You don't write clean in this book. You scrawl, sharp angles, cursive when you're tired, block letters when you're trying not to feel. Some pages are torn, some smudged. One has a water stain from the night you came back and couldn't stop shaking. You never told anyone why, but the log says, "It wasn't what I dropped, it was what I saw. Not through the optics, through the window. A kid, just standing there looking up." You don't read that one often, but you never tear it out. Because this log isn't for closure, it's for continuity. A map of the things you've done, and the person who came back after each one. Because no matter how still you sit in the debrief room, no matter how clean your checklist, no matter how precise the after-action report, there's always more. The things you couldn't explain. The moments that happened between the clicks. Like the time your altimeter glitched and you felt the jet drop 4 feet, and your stomach dropped with it. But Reeves just said "got it" like he caught a falling cup. Or the way your voice cracked saying "confirm weapons free" and no one noticed but you. You write all of it here. Not to share. Not for validation. Just so it doesn't dissolve. Because memory fades. But paper doesn't flinch. And in this job, you need somewhere the truth can live. One entry is written in total darkness. The words drift across the page like they were trying to escape the lines. You wrote, "I've been up there too long. I don't know where the sky ends and I begin. Everything smells like pressure. Everything sounds like mission clocks." You never told Reeves about this book. You don't think he keeps one. If he does, he hides it better. But you're not ashamed of it. You need it. Because the official logbook, that's for the Air Force. This one's for what's left of you. And maybe one day, when you've left the flight line for good, when the last mission is long behind you, when the visor's cracked and the suit's in storage, maybe you'll open this book again. Maybe you'll read those lines and remember that version of yourself, the one who vanished into a wing-shaped shadow and came back different. Not broken, not heroic, just changed. And maybe you'll smile, not because it was easy, but because you kept a record of the things no one else saw, the choices no one else made, the sounds only you could hear, the flight log you never show anyone. But that shows you exactly who you are. There's no music, no flags, no ceremonial handshake. Just a white room, 2 chairs and a man with a clipboard who doesn't look up when you walk in. You close the door behind you. It clicks. That's the only sound. You sit. The chair is plastic, institutional. It creaks under your weight like it's not used to holding people who've dropped bombs. The man glances at you, nods once, then goes back to the clipboard. He reads the name, rank, serial number, checks the boxes. You've heard of him, or someone like him. It doesn't matter. They always send someone neutral, someone who's been briefed just enough to know what not to ask. He clears his throat. Final sortie logged on the 12th, he says. You nod. Confirmed strike over assigned grid. Another nod. He clicks his pen. You've completed 2,891 flight hours in the B-2 Spirit. You say nothing. You've received 4 commendations, 2 classified. Still nothing. You were never injured, you were never out of protocol. You almost smile. Almost. Because that's what success looks like from their side of the table. No blood. No paperwork. No noise. He sets the clipboard down. Now comes the part that's not printed. How do you feel? You look at him. He says it like it matters. Like it's a question. But it's not. It's a test. A trap. A signal. Because if you answer wrong, if you say too much, that gets logged too. So you say the safe thing. Tired. He writes that down. You wait. He asks the next one. Do you feel you need further support post-deployment? It's worded like an offer. It's really a probe. You shake your head. No. He clicks again. Nightmares. Think about the dreams, the coordinates, the sound of the button you never pressed. You say, not lately. He underlines something. You don't ask what, because none of this is for you. This briefing isn't about closure. It's about liability. Keeps going. Any memory loss during mission cycles? No. Disorientation? No. Difficulty transitioning to civilian tempo? That one gives you pause. You could say, yes, I don't know how to stand in line at a coffee shop without scanning for escape routes. Yes, I don't know how to look at people without calculating range and movement. Yes, I feel like I'm always waiting for someone to give me the next objective. But you say, no, because this is how you exit. You make it easy, clean, forgettable. He leans back, looks at you like a mechanic inspecting a used part. Still functional, somewhere. Still fits the system. Any questions for us? You shake your head. Because what would you ask? What did I really do out there? Do they know what it cost? Was any of it worth it? You don't ask those, because you already know the answers, or you're afraid you don't. He stands. You do too. He says, you did well. Thank you for your service. You nod. Shake his hand. It's warm. Dry. Unremarkable. Then he leaves. Just like that. No last mission photo. No ceremonial patch removal. Just a door. And the sound of your boots echoing in a hallway that no longer belongs to you. You return to the locker room. Your flight suit is hanging where you left it. Freshly laundered. Still smells like aviation detergent and cold fabric. You change out of it for the last time. Fold it carefully, as if that makes it easier to leave behind. Your helmet sits on the bench. You pick it up, hold it, feel the shape of all the things you can't explain. The hours, the sky, the weight of silence. You set it down, walk out. No one stops you. No one salutes. Just the same yellow lines painted on concrete. The same gates. The same sky. You check out at security. Hand over your badge. Your access key. Your last piece of belonging. The guard gives you a nod. Take care, sir. You nod back. That's the end. No music. Just you. In a parking lot. Under a morning sun that feels too honest. You get in your car, start the engine, but you don't drive. Not yet, you sit. Hands on the wheel, eyes on the windshield, waiting for something. But there's no next step. No launch window, no green light. Just the rest of your life. You breathe. And for the first time in years, you're not expected anywhere. The jeans don't feel right. They sit too low. Fold funny at the knees. The waistband doesn't know what to do with the space where a sidearm used to live. The t-shirt clings too much. The cotton feels soft, too soft. You miss the roughness of flight fabric. Miss the way a uniform feels like a shield. You look in the mirror. Civilian. That's what they call it. But it doesn't look right on you. Like someone painted over your real self in soft colours and forgot the outline. You pull on a hoodie. It hangs loose. No name. No insignia. No meaning. Just fabric and thread. You grab your keys. Wallet. phone. Walk to the door. Step outside. The sun hits you in a way that feels unfamiliar, like it's trying too hard. No mission today. No briefing. No airframe waiting behind blast-proof doors. Just errands. Gas, groceries. Maybe a haircut if the line isn't too long. You get in the car. Pull out of the driveway. You don't check your mirrors the same way anymore. No convoy behind you. No one shadowing your six. Just school buses, SUVs, drivers on their phones at stoplights. No one's watching you. No one knows you. You're just a guy, in jeans that don't fit, in a hoodie that hides everything you used to be. You get to the gas station, swipe your card, stand there, hand on the pump staring at the price climb like it means something. The sound of the fuel rushing into the tank feels strange. Too slow. You're used to refueling in the sky. High speed, high risk, precise. This is mundane. You almost laugh, but you don't. You just finish up, get back in the car, drive to the store. Everything feels loud. Shopping carts, kids crying, overhead music pumping out bubblegum nonsense. You keep to the edges of the aisles, back to the wall, eyes scanning reflexively. It's not fear, it's training. Your hands reach for cereal like they're clearing a weapon. You grab bread, milk, a frozen dinner you know you won't eat. In line, you catch yourself checking the exits, watching the cashier's hands, listening for anything out of pattern. But nothing happens. Of course it doesn't. This is the real world. This is where things are supposed to be safe. You pay in cash. Small talk from the clerk. Nice day, huh? You nod. Say nothing. You get home. Unload the groceries. Stand in the kitchen looking at everything you bought and realise you don't want any of it because none of it feels like yours. This place. This skin. You sit on the couch, turn on the TV, let the noise cover the silence, flip channels. The war movie comes on. B-52S. Stock footage. Actors in flight suits that don't wrinkle right. You watch for a minute. Then change the channel. You've seen it already. Lived it. You try a sitcom. Too bright. Too scripted. You try a documentary. Too close. You turn the TV off. Stare at your reflection in the black screen. This is the part they don't show in the ads. Not the return. The after. When you walk through the world wearing skin that doesn't fit. When the uniform is gone, but the shape of it is still stamped into your shoulders. When every noise sounds wrong. Because it's not the hum of stealth systems or the clipped cadence of a cockpit radio. You remember the phrase they used in the briefing room? You are a weapons platform. They were right. You were. For years. Now, you're just a man again. Supposedly. But no one tells you how to make that shift. No one gives you a manual for becoming undangerous. You try. You really do. You go for walks. You pay your bills. You tell your mum you're fine on the phone. You say I'm good when someone asks how you're adjusting. But you're not adjusting. You're camouflaging. And in some ways that's harder. Because when you wore the jet when you flew at altitude, silent, sharp, ready, you knew what you were. Now you're just here, standing in line, scrolling through phone screens, pretending to laugh at jokes you don't get. You go to sleep that night in a bed that's too soft. You lie there, hoodie still on. It's not just comfort, it's armour. Thin, useless, but something. You stare at the ceiling, wait for the dreams. They come. They always do. But this time they're different. Not mission, not flight, just you, standing on the tarmac, watching your reflection in the jet's glossy wing, trying to figure out which version of you is real. And then the jet lifts off without you. You feel it sometimes, in the quiet, in the space between seconds, when the wind shifts through the blinds, or TV cuts to static for half a second too long. You feel it. The mission. Not one that's scheduled, not one on any board, not one assigned by an officer or built into an operations order. This one lives in the shadow. The one that doesn't have a date yet. But you know it's out there. Somewhere. Waiting. It's not paranoia. It's awareness. Because when you've flown as long as you have, when your name has been tied to enough missions that were never spoken aloud, you start to feel patterns, rhythms, omissions. And right now, quiet, it feels too clean. Like a pause before something heavy. Like the world inhaling. You see it on the news. Headlines about places you've hovered over at 40,000 feet. Places whose maps you memorised under red light. The ink still drying on the brief. People talk like they understand. Like they've read the right articles, seen the right footage, heard the right opinions. But you know better. You know the distance between intel and impact. Between what they say is coming and what's already happened 5 hours ago. And you're left with memory, not the dramatic kind. Not movie scenes or headlines, but flickers. Quiet click of a HUD interface. The glow of instruments under low light. Reeves cracking his knuckles before each takeoff, like it helped him balance the sky. You remember the smell of the cockpit, the exact pressure in your gloves at 40,000 feet, the hum of systems sinking just before the final approach. You remember the missions where nothing happened, where you flew 12 hours across nothing, released nothing, fired nothing. But those days, they meant something, because they proved you were there, and no one else had to be. Now, no one talks about that part. When you leave, the command gives you a form, the system gives you a folder, the people you flew with, they give you space, because they know, because they might be next. You check your email weeks after you're out. Nothing from them. Not because they forgot, but because they remember in the only way that matters, by not asking where you went, by not saying anything that could be overheard, by leaving room for the silence to stay clean. You try to rejoin the world. Start slow. A morning jog, a hardware store visit, a cup of coffee at a place with soft music and people who've never seen a flare pop in the night sky. You're polite. You nod. You smile when required. But it's not real. Not like the sky was. Not like the sound of a loaded bay opening at altitude. You wonder if the people around you would feel different if they knew what you once carried. Not as a burden, but as a certainty. If they knew that while they were watching sitcoms or reading the news or arguing in comment threads, you were quietly riding 600 knots above sovereign airspace, tracking the difference between escalation and diplomacy in real time. You don't tell them. You don't even try. Because it's not about what you did. It's about what never had to happen. You kept things from boiling over. You flew over cities that slept peacefully because they didn't know you were there. You were the final step in a ladder of deterrence. And when the ladder worked, you never had to take the last rung. That's something. That's everything. But it doesn't fit in a sentence. It doesn't fit on a bumper sticker or a retirement plaque. So you carry it. Quiet. Alone. Like every ghost who ever flew before you. You keep the routine, even now. Up early, make the bed, coffee, black hot fast. You still run comm checks in your head, still glance up at the sky, like it's waiting for you to return. You still wear the same watch, still keep your boots by the door. You tell yourself it's habit, but deep down, it's hope. Not for war, not for action, for meaning. That one day you'll look at the world and say it was worth it. All of it. But for now, you sit. You breathe. You remember. And when you pass another guy in a hoodie with the same quiet eyes, you nod. And he nods back. Because some things don't need to be said. Because ghosts don't say goodbye. They just wait, in case the world calls again. And, if it doesn't, they carry the silence forward, so no one else has to. If you're still here, still listening, still riding the edge of sleep, curled somewhere in the dark where memory and silence meet thank you, this story was told in a whisper, because that's how it happened. Not in parades, not in headlines, but in soft steps, long nights, and quiet decisions made at 50,000 feet. If it meant something to you, if it brought you calm or clarity, or even just company, consider subscribing. This channel exists for stories that don't shout, for lives that moved in silence, for people like you who understand that some of the most powerful moments are the ones no one ever hears about. Subscribing helps us keep telling these stories, the way they were lived, the way they deserve to be remembered. No filters, no edits, just truth told slowly. We'll see you in the next one. And until then, sleep well, ghost. You've earned it.